Evening. This is Pastor John, Associate Pastor of the Connect Church, and welcome to Uncomfortable Conversation. For those that have been watching, we've been doing this for 2 months now. We started off with the pastors. We had a lot of discussion, we had a lot of understanding, had a lot of things that we brought through, and then we went to the wives. And now that was a big one. Having the wives there, they opened up because the thing about the wives is this: they literally did not hold back. They held back nothing whatsoever. They began to share what they thought. They opened it up to people. But now this month, what we're doing something a little bit differently. And we're actually dealing with our young adults. We're dealing with them. And we're going to have our young adults talk. And they're going to talk about what they've been going through, because we realize movements aren't, they really started with our young people. If you look at Dr. King, you even know, as you celebrated the life of Representative John Lewis, we look at Andrew Young, when we look at Reverend Orange, and we look at C.T. Vivian, we look at Ralph Abernathy, we look at all these individuals. They were young. They were young in their 20s. They were vibrant. They were on fire. When we look at the Freedom Riders, they were young. They were on fire. They were ready to make this thing happen. So what we've got to do is step back and begin to let our young people take the lead. I remember years ago, I was talking to some civil rights leaders, and I was on a bus getting ready to go to the Capitol, and they wanted me to speak. Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't going to speak. They were going to speak, and they had a press conference. And I was riding in there, and it was Dr. Lowry, Dr. Vivian, and Reverend Albert Love. And one of the things myself and somebody else made a statement of, he said, "Why is it you young people don't do anything?" And I said, you all never gave us the man. I said, y'all never passed the torch to us. I said, if you think about it, the leaders that marched with Dr. King, y'all still alive, and you all are still doing this. So we never got a chance to really take on. You never passed it down. You kept looking at us as young and just looked at us, just carry your water, be quiet, sit down, don't be seen, don't be heard. And he said to me, he says, listen, he says, are y'all ready to take up the mantle? And I said, yes. He says, now when I give it to you, you got to run with it. And we pass you this baton. That very day, they set me up, and I ended up speaking at the Capitol, and we were dealing with the execution of the death penalty, because didn't believe that the death penalty is fair. And I had to be ready. But at that point, they gave me that mantle. And the moment they gave it to me, it was the moment I realized that I had to begin to groom younger people, because I was in my 40s. I was late 30s, early 40s. So it was already time for me to groom somebody else up. So we as the older generation, generational X's, and I hate to be the old guy in the room. I'm used to being that little young preacher. But now it's time to make sure that we pass the mantle down. We got to pass the baton, and we got to let our young people run with it. We guide them, we walk with them, but y'all will be amazed. These young people, they can run circles around us. They have no fear. They have vigor, and they're educated. They're purpose driven. Okay, so we're gonna let them introduce themselves to you. So we're gonna be doing that this month. So we're gonna start off. We're gonna let our ladies go first. Miss Alana, tell the world who you are.
My name is Alana Weeks. I'm 18 years old, and I'm about to attend Georgia State University.
And what is your major?
Political science and minoring in journalism and communication.
Awesome. All right, Miss Quinn Cartal.
Yes, so my name is Quinn Cartal, and I live here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm 29. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. I attended an international boarding school for high school, much different than the life I grew up living in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm currently one of the youngest and one of the only women still in the United States in my position in the medical device industry. So bringing a very unique perspective and background to today's session.
Wow. Okay, Mr. Mike Jolly.
Hi, my name is Michael Jolly. I'm 21, from Virginia, raised in Georgia. I'm in school for computer science.
All right. And Mr. Solomon Andrews.
Hello, my name is Solomon Andrews, as you said, and I'm 18 years old, graduated from Lakeside High School, and I'll be attending Florida A&M University this fall for mechanical engineering.
Damn you. You know, I'm sorry, y'all. I love my HBCUs. Myself, I'm Pastor Jean, you know, graduate of the house all day long, melanated by God, educated by Morehouse. Hey, I'm listen. Yes, I will definitely get my little shameless plug in. Okay, those that know me know me. If you don't know me, you're gonna learn today. So, one of the things we have been dealing with is understanding the culture dynamics of what we're dealing with. I mean, we've seen Rashard Brooks, we've seen the murders of these young people, well, not just young people. You know what I'm saying? People of color dying with no purpose whatsoever. You understand? And one of the things I'm curious about with you all, and this is one of the questions I know y'all weren't ready for, so I'm just gonna throw it out there at you anyway. But do you feel that, well, actually, do you feel racism still exists? Do you feel that it did exist and it died? Or is it even stronger than it was before? Alana, since I see you up first, go ahead.
Of course, racism still exists. And I feel like it's stronger than before. I mean, yes, slavery doesn't exist anymore, but people of color are discriminated against and held down. And I mean, it still exists, yeah.
Tez, I'm sorry, Solomon.
I mean, from my standpoint, racism is always been here, and in the past, we was actually enslaved, and right now it's just I seem like I don't want to say it's stronger than before, because we have grew from where we used to be. We did change our past, and I feel like that racism is definitely here. It's definitely has not stopped, and yeah, that's how I feel about it.
So now, when we think about George Floyd, now Quinn, I'm asking you, and you've seen a lot from different perspectives. You know, you have a lot of Black friends, but then at the same time, being a white female, you're in areas that we aren't in, and you hear different conversations that we may not hear. You know, you're not. I mean, you look at you, you're not like, you don't come across as the white girl that has a lot of Black friends. When you look at you look like the everyday, white woman that's doing her thing, and you're in corporate America. You're safe. You know what I'm saying? You're the safe one. But they just don't know who you are, So tell us, you've experienced some things. Tell us about what you think.
In relation to racism,
Yes,
it absolutely exists, and racism is a system into which I was socialized. It's a social construct, and it has profound significance, and it shapes every aspect of our lives. We can go down a slew of different paths, and I've been in countless conversations on both sides of the road, especially now more than ever. However, racism has always existed. It's just that now it's receiving more attention across all media platforms, more than it has been in my generation, for sure. And so, yeah, it influences everything. It influences whether we will survive our birth, where we're most likely to live, which schools we attend, who our friends and partners will be, what careers we have, how much money we'll earn, how healthy we will be, and even how long we can expect to live. And it's a systemic problem in this country, and it has existed since this country even became the United States.
Now one of the things you do at medical supplies, right?
So I'm medical device sales.
Okay. Do you get a chance to see the demographics of certain type of equipment that goes into certain cultures, things like that? Do you see that there's a disparity within certain demographics?
Yes, so I've covered the entire southeastern United States the last 2.5 years, and I absolutely witnessed the disparities in the healthcare system on a daily basis, inside the operating room and within the hospital systems that I work in, whether that's lack of access to care, women's health care, especially in the state of Georgia. We rank last in the United States for access to health care, and we are I believe #1 in maternal mortality in the United States. So yes, there is a huge disparity across the board, and it is very easy to recognize.
Wow. So you think they're unapologetic about it?
I think it's very deep rooted, and I'm not sure that a lot of people have even opened their eyes to the issues we face as a country for various reasons.
Okay. Michael, so how do you feel? Now you're in Virginia Beach, right?
Yes.
Now it's a little bit different up there. Now I know you're in a military area, but what are some things that you've experienced?
Personally experienced, I work at Target, so like sometimes they have me like pretty much doing everything. So when I'm at the cashier, I'm a cashier. Sometimes like the white ladies will cashier. And they'll look at me because sometimes I have my braids in. They're like, never mind, I want to go to self checkout. So it's like little stuff like that you wouldn't pay attention to. But
So you're saying you actually had people to leave your line, okay?
after looking at me, yes.
Now, and that's a good question. Me growing up in our culture, braids was no, that was a no-no. Beards was not a thing. You couldn't do that. The whole dashiki, all that thing. When I grew up, it was kind of frowned upon, and definitely natural hair was not a thing that women could do. Black women. You all are in a generation where you can embrace your naturalness. Okay. Do you feel that is a good thing or a bad thing that corporate America will allow you to embrace? Well, some will allow you to embrace it, but does it still hold a stigma and hold you back?
I feel like it definitely gives you like that individuality. You can like express yourself how you want to through your hair and like through the stuff that you wear. If it's in uniform, but some stuff definitely does hold you back.
So, Solomon, do you feel that if it would be better if we went mainstream, or should we just embrace our culture or who you are?
Well, when you really think about that, it's if you want to get the right results, you got to think about, what the people that you're trying to get the results from, like what they want to see, like you want to make sure that you give them the right thing. Like from a personal point of view, I would say, yeah, I want to, express my naturalness, and let's say I want to, I don't know, grow my hair out and get some twists in it, make it look really cool, put some dye in there or something. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but I'm saying that's just an example. And let's say I would like that, but let's say you want to get a job with, let's say, NASA or something, and NASA, I don't think they would like that. They would want me to have a fresh cut. They want me to, come here in the suit, want me to come here, just looking, let's say the worldly view of being, looking right, looking clean, looking professional. But I think times has definitely changed to where you have a little bit less pressure on how you look and how your hair looks. So, yeah.
Okay. So let's look at this now, Quinn. You're a woman in a male-dominated industry. Would you say that there is the same kind of discrimination that you see that with Black people as you do with a woman?
I think the discrimination against Black people in this country outweighs the discrimination I face as a woman. I think that being a Black woman is even more difficult in this country. I can't even think of a single Black woman that's in my position in my company in this country at all, actually. And yeah, being a woman,
how does that make you feel?
I don't like it. I'm actually I'm on the diversity and inclusion task force for my company because when this entire movement began with George Floyd, I sent an email to the CEOs and global leaders of my company demanding, just stating facts about our values as a company and stating that silence is to be complicit. And now more than ever, we're being challenged to be who we say we are. And so it's my mission to really change that in this company and in the world. And because I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I have, and I wouldn't be where I am without the privilege that I was born into. And I realized that, and it's my goal to annihilate the good old boys club.
Wow. Is it the good old boys club or the good old white boys club? I'm just trying
The good old white boys club.
Which is, and the thing is, that is a difference. You know, do you find yourself having to try to assimilate to fit in?
I won't do it, actually. I see where there is pressure to, it's hard to speak up. When I sent that email to the global leaders of my company, because my company is actually headquartered in Tokyo, I thought that I was going to be fired. And I received a phone call from the United States sales, president of sales over all of North America that evening. And I told him that I hesitated in sending this email because I thought that I'd be fired. And he said that for you to feel that way, it just says how deep rooted the issues are within this company and in our country, to speak up for justice and to think that you'd be fired for that. But it's a lot easier to try to fit in and get along, and exactly just that, because
So the company line, be quiet, take
Exactly.
everything you get to move up the ladder.
exactly. But for me, I just won't do it. And if that, means that I might lose my job, I'm willing to speak up for what's right and integrity.
We had a question that was posted. What type of impact or influence would our youth today use to try to overcome the distractions of today? Anybody? Michael? Alana?
Can you repeat the
You're
question?
shaking your head. You know, I mean, what is it you all can do? Because we have a lot that's going, and I think one of the things we talk about distractions, from music, entertainment, I believe culturally our entertainment on some point is destroying the family unit and also promoting the negative connotations of African Americans. You know, one of the things I said when I was younger, I struggled with the black skin that I had because everything that I saw on TV, a black guy was either a pimp, a drug dealer, he was robbing, he was not educated, or they lived in the projects, the ghetto, or he was a jackleg preacher. I mean, those are the stereotypes. I think it wasn't until like you had people like John Shaft, who was a black private detective, but at the same time he was still on that other end of chauvinism, ladies' man. So you didn't see that positive male role model. Even the positive guys in the black cinema were still killing and still robbing. So even in today, we look at our media and we're promoting and perpetuating the gang activity, thug activity, balling out. Our reality shows are all about emotional discourse and, infidelity. Even the TV shows there's one TV show I was watching and it was just so much infidelity that I'm like, I can't even watch this. I mean, every person there, and when you see, but I'm seeing it from a black culture, it's black people. And they're doing it, and we're doing it to ourselves. And these are distractions that are happening. They're weapons of mass distraction that are happening. Even we move forward. So I look at our political arrangement now. That through the death of people that we have, like Breonna Taylor, once everything is real heavy, they change. The news changes to talk about something else to remove you from what's going on. To distract you from what's really happening. So my question is, what is it you feel you all can do to make sure that the main thing remains the main thing and we stay on the battle line to make sure this message gets out that you're tired of it?
I think that we should do pretty much exactly what we've been doing for a while now. And, social media has a very, very, big impact on, the youth, has a very big impact on, government officials, celebrities. And all it takes is, one video posted to go viral. And I feel like that when we make, a voice towards, one of these actions that, that happen, and we want to, make it known to the world, like, hey, this is happening here. We need to do something about this. I think that social media is really, the big, picture of how we can, make sure it stays relevant, make sure it doesn't go away. And I think that as of right now, so far, we've really been doing a very good job at it because every single day when I go on Instagram and I scroll through, I'm always seeing a picture of like Breonna Taylor. I'm always seeing, you know, something that, lets me know that, hey, this is the world I live in and something needs to change. So I think that social media impact is really the answer to that.
Yeah, and feeding off of what Solomon said, like young people, we use our voice through social media. Like think of the Black Lives Matter movement. That started with the hashtag on social media and then it blew up from there. So I feel like young people's way of fighting is through the media and social media. That's our way of having our voices heard instead of, in the younger days, it was the activists going out and marching. So I feel like we are fighting, but it's in a different way.
Okay. Now so when you all hear the term Black Lives Matter, what does that resonate? What does that mean to you? How does that resonate to you as a younger culture? And I want to hear this from all of you.
Okay, so I feel like Black Lives Matter, it means to me that, let's say, like we're we're protesting, we're raising our voice, and we're all going towards the idea of having equality. That's what we want. We want to feel like everybody's fair, everyone had the same opportunity as us, and that we're not let's say excluded out of the picture, and I mean, a part of Black Lives Matter, a lot of people want to defund the police. A lot of people want to, see different things happen in order to, let's say, complete the movement in order for it, to be, in order to get for what they want. And I say that, in my point of view of it, I don't think it's. Of course, we got to, get justice for, the things that happen, like Breonna Taylor, the other people, and I think that, in my point of view, it's really the main focus that we should really have when supporting Black Lives Matter is equality, and is making sure everybody has an equal equal right, an equal word to say, and that's how I see it.
Now, does that equality just for Black people? Does that equality only count for Black people?
Oh no, of course not. We want to make sure it's for everybody: Latinos, white people, Black people, Arabic, everybody, because we are all humans. We are all 99.99% the same. All we have different is just the color of our skin.
All right, Michael.
It's funny how you say Black Lives Matter because some people try to downplay it and be like all lives matter, but I feel like I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but I feel like white lives already matter. Like they already get the privilege of just being non-melanated. So I feel like Black Lives Matter means all lives matter, but some lives already matter. So we're just kind of trying to catch up.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in on that one. I completely agree with what you say. I think that when I hear Black Lives Matter, I think that it's a good, when, your perception of the Black Lives Matter movement is a good indication of the stage of development that you're in from a cultural competence perspective. So racial encounters in the United States especially carry a long history of abuse developed during the colonial era, which established a hierarchy of socially exclusive categories and reinforced unequal rank and status differences used to rationalize and justify social, political, and economic power and relationships. And so, knowing this, consider any period in the past from the perspective of Black American, of 240 or almost 250 years of brutal enslavement. So yes, while all lives do matter, it's Black lives that especially matter in the United States because Black Americans have not been offered equal opportunities that white people have at any point in this country's history. And so that is my firm belief, is that Black lives matter and that it is about Black Americans right now and always.
Alana?
Yeah, so when I hear Lives Matter, I just hear like the outpour of Black people that, hey, we deserve to exist in a world where we're not constantly killed for the color of our skin, or constantly discriminated for the color of our skin, or held down and systematically discriminated against. So yeah, that's what it means. Black Lives Matter.
I like that. I mean, when I hear it, one of the things it just means that just matter. Can it just matter? Is plain and simple. It doesn't mean matter more than yours. It doesn't mean elevate it more than yours. It just literally means matter. But saying that, it brings me to this question. And that is, when we think about Black Lives Matter, when we ask ourselves about employment, you know what I'm saying? And equal employment for Black people, equal employment for women, equal employment for Latinos, you know what I'm saying? And we talk about equality, and, is it there in corporate America? I mean, do we still need to have a quota? Does it have to be a racial quota to be able to operate a company or for a school? Does that matter?
I think so.
I feel like with the climate of our world, like there has to be a quota, or nothing's ever going to change. Because if it was up to, say, a predominantly white institution, they didn't have a quota. I mean, do you think enough Black people would be able to get into that school if they didn't have a quota to meet? So I feel like quotas are, basically what our world is like. I mean, you have to have a quota so you can give Black people a fair chance in this world.
So, therefore, and my question is because, and I didn't want to use the term affirmative action because people take affirmative action and that just goes up their spine. That's why I said quota. But it means the same. But in that aspect, I feel this way. For instance, Quinn made a statement. She's the only female in her position, okay, in her company. But there are no Black females in her position in her company at the level that she's at. Am I correct? Am I right in what I said?
There are women in my position in the country, but there are no Black women in my position in my division. Right.
So, in my logic, I believe we would not need affirmative action if there was a disparity. But if there's a disparity, we need to implement affirmative action. But then the question becomes, we're just giving unqualified Black people or women jobs that they don't need. Do you feel that's what affirmative action? Do you all feel affirmative action gives unqualified candidates a job?
I think that if you're not qualified to get the job, I don't think they should be getting the job, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to do the work. You have to be able to, when your boss tells you he needs this and this done, you have to know how to do it. And if he's just trying to meet a quota and he gives you a job that you're not qualified for, you're not going to be pretty good at your job. You're not going to get the best results that you want. And in a situation like that, I feel like that's the only reason why. I mean, if there is no, other minorities who know how to do it, like it doesn't have to be Black. You can be, Hispanic. You can be anyone else. But I'm just saying, like, if in that situation where you can't find anybody else, or there is nobody else, then you have to do what you have to do, and it's understandable.
So the question is, do we still need affirmative action today?
You said what?
Do we still need affirmative action today?
Yeah, I feel like we do. Yes.
So,
okay, Glenn, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so when it comes to, affirmative action arose in the 1970s. And so when this passed, we saw a lot of, reverse racism and reverse discrimination arising in direct response to affirmative and race-based policies. And still to this day, there's a remarkable prevalence of white Americans who believe that they also experience racial prejudice. And so those in favor of affirmative action characterize it as necessary to equalize opportunities for racial minorities, considering the history of racial and gender oppression, in addition to ongoing racial and gender discrimination. On the other hand, you see the anti-affirmative action forces characterize affirmative action as reverse discrimination or reverse racism, and tell the story of the innocent white male typically. My question, are those against affirmative action committed to a broad vision of social justice? Are they motivated by a narrow vision that allows them to see injustice only when it affects the so-called innocent white male, or are they interested in seeking racial justice more broadly? Are they committed to reversing racism in the United States? Understood in the larger, broader social context, I doubt that those who cry reverse discrimination or reverse racism are committed to reversing racism in the United States, and which is why they oppose affirmative action. That's just my opinion on the matter.
Okay. So, Alana?
Yeah, I feel like we still need it. I mean, racism, as long as racism still exists.
Okay. So here's the thing. Let me break it down to you. And what Quinn was saying, and that was, a lot of people feel that affirmative action has been a segue or an allotment to open the floodgates for individuals that were lesser qualified, and also created a racial discrimination towards Anglo or white Americans, that they could not get a job that they were qualified for. It was yet given to a lesser qualified person because of their skin. So they're feeling that they were ostracized, and the same thing was happening to them that quote unquote they say was claiming to happen to African Americans. So they're not able to get the job now. My question, though, to that, my challenge to though is this: if a company, I'll put it to you this way: if your company services 40% African Americans, I'm sorry, 30% African Americans, 10% Latinos, okay, and 60% Anglo, at some point, shouldn't your community represents that also, this community makeup of where your company is. Shouldn't your employment and your management mirror the culture? And to say that, I give a little story for those that don't know, and I probably should, just a lot of people that follow me know. You all have flown into Atlanta before, right? Everybody on here?
Yeah.
Y'all caught a plane? Y'all been to the airport? And it's called, what's the name of our airport? Anybody knows off the top of your head?
Hartsfield Jackson.
Hartford Jackson.
Hartsfield Jackson. It used to be called Hartsfield. Do you know why it's called Hartsfield Jackson? See, now my oldness is showing up. It's called Hartsfield Jackson, named after Mayor Maynard Jackson. Okay, he was the mayor of Atlanta, actually elected 3 times. You know, wow, elected twice and then sat out, came back, elected again. Now, the thing about him was this: they wanted to build an international airport in Atlanta. And one of the things he told them is, if you're going to build an international airport in Atlanta, you are going to have to give it to black contractors. I'm going to have to see black contractors get at least 20, I think it was 25, 35% of the business of building this international airport. Okay. They were like, fine. So they go through time, years pass, or months pass, I'm sorry. And they're like, listen, we have the 25% African Americans on the contract, 25%, this at 25% for that. But what we don't have is the construction for the runway to actually build the runways. We don't have the black engineers that can construct and build the runways. So can we please move ahead? He said, if you don't get any black people to 25% to help build that runway, to actually lay that pavement, you cannot land your planes here. They go back and it comes down, he's there. They made the table again, and he's saying, and they're like, we can't get any. He said, what is a runway? They said, and he said, isn't it like a driveway? He said, well, it's like a driveway, yeah, sir, but it's a little bit wider, a little bit deeper. He said, well, we got a whole lot of black people that build driveways, so we're just gonna get the band that make driveways, and we're gonna have them make some big driveways to land the planes. He said, or your planes are not landing here. He forced the issue. They end up getting black contractors and engineers to go ahead and build that runway. He turned right back around and did it to the banks. He said, if you want to have my money, and if you want the city's money in your bank, Bank of America, he says, you're going to have at least, I think it was 15% of people on your board need to be African American if you want my money. Or else I'm going to take my money and I'm going to take it up to Chicago. You know what they did? They began to put black people in senior VP and management levels. That's how Atlanta became the mecca because there were companies that was doing that, and he would say, "I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to source you out for any projects unless you're showing me your cultural diversity in this city." And companies began to do that, and other companies from up north said, "We like that," and they moved down here for that, and more Black people moved down here for that. Here's the thing: they didn't get lesser qualified individuals. They just got qualified individuals, and they searched more for them. You can't tell me that there's not a woman, there's not a Latino, there's not an Asian, there's not a Black person that can't do any job in this world. It's no such thing. They're there. Now you may have to look for, but honestly, I think we don't look enough, or we don't pay them enough. One of the things that I think that we serve with, and you all may, I don't know if you all will experience it, but that is also salary inequality because of your skin color and because of your gender, you know? And we need to, and I think that that's things that you all need to look at. I mean, have y'all even thought about salary inequality?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quinn, you jumped on that one real hard.
Yeah, I'm currently in the negotiation process for a new position within my company, and I'm negotiating the terms of that. But there is a huge range of inequality, and the gender pay gap is huge, and it affects. I mean, it includes race and ethnicity, disability, access to education and age, and as a result, different groups of women and just I would say Black Americans experience very different gaps in pay, and it's a complex issue, but it definitely exists, and millions, I would say like hundreds of millions, if not billions, are left on the table in this world every year.
Now, in that inequality, Alana, can I put you on the spot for a second?
Okay.
Okay. You know I love you, right? Just want to say this. You know when I start off like that, you know where I'm going. So here's the thing: inequality. There's Black, there's white, and then there's biracial. Have you experienced as being a biracial female? First, I know that there's a challenge. Are you Black? Are you white? What do you call yourself? That's one of the major things. I have friends that have biracial children. One will say they're not Black. They don't believe that because he's not going to allow them to disrespect their mother's white skin like that. So they're biracial. Others will say, no, you got the one drop rule. You got to drop a Black in you. You're Black. That's the bottom line. And one of my friends says, my daughter will find out what color she is when she gets pulled over by the police. And you're going to realize you thought you were biracial. At the bottom line, you still Black. And then we got some that actually call passing. Passing us old folk use. That's, I'm saying, wow. That is when you're Black, but you are so fair-skinned that you can pass for white. Okay? You being a biracial female, do you receive the same discrimination with your peers, as a student? Do you get treated worse? Do you get treated indifferent? Do you get treated better? I mean, I know when I grew up, light skin, the hair like that, then you kind of move to the top of the class. Now I've noticed it's a little bit different because you now have other Black people that are more trying to be socially conscious that want to dig on you. I don't know. I'm old. I don't know. Tell me.
Okay, so first, I don't identify as just Black or white. I check biracial, and if I don't have the option to pick both, I'm going to circle other because I don't believe in the one drop rule. This is not. I feel like it does disrespect my mother. It doesn't give her credit where it's due. I remember there's a time where my transcript said African American, and I was in the counsel's office making her change my race to biracial. That's how passionate I am about it. And when it comes to how I experienced inequality from peers, white people, I've never really been to an all-white school or diverse schools. I've been to a white school for like 2 months, and that was a very bad experience for me to the point where I had to withdraw.
You mind sharing with us?
I'm sorry?
Mind sharing that story with us?
I thought that I mean, coming from an all black school, I wasn't comfortable around white people, being honest. I've always been more comfortable being around people of color because that's what I was raised around. I wasn't raised around my white family or anything. So going into that white school, I'm like, okay, this is a new experience for me. I'm excited to get, around my other culture. But I mean, I feel like I wasn't accepted. They didn't want to be friends with us. They looked at me like I was a black girl. It's to the point where I have a twin sister, and they even wrote like mud on her desk, and like we experienced a lot of racism from white people as well. And growing up in Warner Robins in the South, walking in the stores and being called mutts by older white people, we've experienced racism from white people, and we've experienced prejudice from black people as well. Like my black peers would call me white girl in school, or say that I don't count, or I mean the little ignorant things as Oreo, or I even got called a panda one time. Like, just the ignorant things. Like we experience racism from both sides, and it makes us not know where we fit in. Like growing up, I've had a lot of identity issues. Like, where do I fit in this world? Like the white people, I don't belong to them. I don't belong to the black people because they say I don't fit in. They say that I'm considered a white girl in this world, or it's just like mixed people, biracial people. We struggle a lot. We face racism from both sides. We, are chose to pick one, but in our reality, like I do feel like we are a part. This question came up to me one time. I do feel like biracial people, like mixed, like white and black, we are still a part of the Black Lives Matter movement because if we were pulled over, I have black brothers. If they were pulled over, they would get treated exactly the same as a fully black male. We are still a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, but you have to look at it as we experience racism from both sides. We go through that as well.
So, any thoughts, any comments on that from anyone?
What she said is very, very true. Like, I go to a very diverse school, and there's a good amount of mixed children there, and you can see like what they go through at that point. It gets so bad to the point where you feel like, man, like racism today, I feel like they get almost the worst of it because they got two sides of the people going at them, and it's pretty tough how it is today, and yeah, it's true.
Now, in that, talking about biracial, interracial relationships, in the past, that was taboo. I grew up where I didn't know it was taboo, but it actually was. I mean, we still have places where they have black and white proms, back when we used to have proms. What is your take on America? Do you feel that America is more susceptible to interracial relationships, or is it still the same? Or are people more vocal against it now? Michael.
Just like you said, I'm in Virginia Beach, so I see a lot of interracial relationships. I feel like it is more accepted. But when you have a baby, isn't it like a shot that you take? Like if that's like a shot. If a black man impregnates a white woman, you have to take like a shot.
No, sir.
No, definitely is. I'll look it up when we get off of this.
Yeah, no, sir.
But
shot for what?
No, I'm talking about like for the baby to be like nourished and stuff, because I don't know, like the woman, like the womb doesn't like accept it or whatnot.
No.
I'll look when we get off. But anyway, yeah, I'm in Virginia, so a lot of interracial relationships. I feel like it's accepted.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is geographically, culturally, of where you are is more accepted. Yeah, because you're in a military town.
Yeah.
So a military town, it's always more culturally accepted. But let's see. Quinn, where are you from?
Ooh, yeah, so I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and my first one of my first relationships was with a black man, and I learned very quickly, if I didn't know what racism was before that time, which I very well did, I certainly got an earful and have definitely been called all names in the book. because of that. And, you know, that the interracial relationships I've been in from a young age really launched me into speaking up and coming face to face with racism. I helped raise Black kids in one of the relationships I was in, and I experienced, you know, I saw the experience of Black children in the United States firsthand. And it can be very difficult to be in an interracial relationship in the Deep South. Here in Atlanta, that's a different story. Atlanta is a city that I live in. I don't live in the state of Georgia. Georgia is much different from Metro Atlanta. And if you've ever traveled through Alabama to Mississippi, you know exactly what it is. You know, I mean, I have no words. It's unconscionable, actually, the way that I've been treated simply based on who I've dated.
Okay, so how long you been in Atlanta?
This is my eighth year in Atlanta.
Okay, so you haven't experienced the Black women reverse discrimination for you dating a Black man. Okay.
I have. I've experienced all of it, honestly. Yes.
That's in Atlanta. That's a no-no. I mean, that's a real good way. I've noticed. I hear this. And here's the thing: we got to talk about reverse discrimination. They go, sisters, that sets them off to see a white woman with a Black man.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
Speaking from my mother, I have seen her deal with this a lot, even from my dad's side of the family. Oh, she's trying to steal our men, and it's just ridiculous. And my mom's a strong woman, and I'm surprised that she got through all of this. It's just plain ignorance. Like, how are we going to move forward if you can't accept that somebody else is dating outside the race? Like, you can't help who you fall in love with. It shouldn't matter about the color of their skin. And as Black women, you shouldn't bash another Black man for wanting to date a white woman. I mean, how are we going to move forward if you're creating barriers to who you fall in love with to race? It doesn't make sense to me.
Solomon, what's your thoughts on that?
That is definitely true. I definitely seen that pretty good amount of times where a Black woman would be upset with, like, one of my friends. They date a white girl, and they would talk a lot about him because he made that decision to, you know, do that. But it's like, you know, they love each other. Let them love each other. And yeah, so that situation is definitely here, and it really hasn't moved a lot. I mean, of course, there's, you know, there are Black women out there who are, you know, perfectly fine with it. It's not everybody, but
True.
the majority is.
We integrated. I mean, you know, I had family members growing up. They said if she can't use your comb, don't bring her home. You know, yeah, y'all get that later.
But I mean, it kind of goes both ways, to be honest, because, like, when sometimes I hear that when when a Black man dates a white woman, typically the white woman's parents, I heard that their parents sometimes are not okay with it. Like, I heard stories of how, you know, the dad would, like, I heard one story where this white girl's their father basically, like, disowned them. Like, they didn't want them. They didn't want to talk to them, none of that. And it's pretty sad how that is sometimes, because they don't deserve it. They need their father in life. They need, you know, the support with them, or else they're gonna feel by themselves with, you know, their man.
I still don't know who my grandfather is to this day because of that. My mother was disowned for marrying a Black man from her father. So I still don't know my grandfather to this day. So yeah, it goes both ways.
Wow, that says a lot. That says a lot. So, you know, getting close to the end, but I have to bring this part up. Does the church have a responsibility in ending racism?
Of course. We are the church. We promote, you know, loving Jesus. Jesus loves everybody, and he doesn't care about, you know, the color of your skin. He doesn't care about where you was raised, who you are, what you did, what you didn't do.
Okay, stop. I got a question. So if Jesus don't care about color, and being a believer is not about color, why is it my great grandma had a picture of a blue-eyed, white, pointed nose, silky head Jesus that she prayed to? You know what I'm saying? Next to Martin Luther King. I'm trying to understand. If color didn't matter, Why is it that Jesus is portrayed as white? Why is it when we look at the Ten Commandments, they're all white and it's white Egyptians? When we look at these, when you look in your Bibles and their pictures, they got everybody looking white. If color didn't matter, and
Well,
the church has a responsibility.
well, I believe that, obviously, if, you know, a lot of Jesus' life, a lot of, um, pretty much where religion, became to be was in, Africa area, Middle Eastern area. If it's there, you're obviously going to have a darker shade of skin. You're obviously a black person. Now, I believe that the reason why that happened to where it's a painted picture of a blonde white person, blue eyes, and I believe that happened through pretty much just the worldly view of what pure looked like. Let's say like the worldly view of what, something good to look at. Like as in people will see like the white color as pure, clear, things like that. But black color, dark. They think of things like just bad things, like let's say hell or something like that. And that certainly we shouldn't, go based off some type of color, obviously, but that's just how the world saw it. And not as in the world, but really, I guess, I'm trying to think about, like back in the days of like Christopher Columbus and things like that, medieval times, things around there, when they started, translating the Bible and creating it, they really kind of painted that picture and kind of started it like that. I think that's correct.
Hello? Can you hear us, Mike?
What'd you say?
I said, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. So what's your thoughts on does the church have a responsibility to ending racism?
I feel like they do. Funny you say that, because I go to like an interracial church where it's like mostly white people, but there's a couple of black people. So I feel like the church does have like a small part in it, but I mean, it ain't gonna be enough if the rest of the world is evil in a sense.
So what should the church do to help? You know what I'm saying? And to promote this unity and move away from the socialist isolation of color and color inequality.
One of the things that my church did is we had a march. I said it's like an interracial church. We went to downtown Norfolk and had a march, and we just marched together, stuff like that, just outreaches and stuff like that.
Okay, Alana.
I would say just continue to preach the word of God, spread the love of Jesus. Like, I mean, you can't be a church and not speak out against racism. I mean, I feel like God, he doesn't see that,
Okay, Quinn.
Right. So the image of Jesus as a white, light-skinned man, that's a direct result, in my opinion, of the white supremacy that is so deeply ingrained in not only the United States, but in the world. I think that Jesus is probably black, to be honest, but the church in general has not modeled reconciliation for the younger generation. And so we have younger generations who are trying to find and look elsewhere. The church needs to show progress, and I think that the church has been way too slow to change. It's said that the 11 o'clock hour on Sundays is still the most segregated hour in this country, and I still think that is true. The church that I attend is one of the most diverse churches in Atlanta. It's Victory Church, Midtown. And our 4 pillars are, building families, reconciling cultures, impacting nations, and transforming communities. And that is what is required to create the change. Our global spiritual leaders have to take the message and the philosophy of spiritual, economic, political, and social uplift and apply it to every area of life, which is economic and community development, home ownership, business, healthcare, entrepreneurial training, and because what we're in this for, we're not trying to change the minds of people, we're trying to change the hearts of people. Without changing the hearts, we're not going to see the differences we need to see, because racism is ultimately a sin. So yes, the church has a huge responsibility in ending racism, and it starts with the leaders.
Awesome. Okay.
I
Okay.
think that I've been, thinking about this, for quite some time, like, with the white Jesus thing. I think that what churches really should do, they should never really act like they know exactly what, Jesus looked like, exactly what God looked like. I feel like we worship him just because he is who he is, We know that he lived at one point in time. We know that he died on the cross, and there's no need to paint a picture, to represent that. There's no need to do that. The whole point is to, surrender to God and, believe that he died on the cross and rose from the dead. And it's really no point at all to paint a picture of what you think that God looked like. And I feel like that's kind of wrong. It's almost like for a human to literally just say, I think that this is what God looks like because I think this is what beautiful is to me. Well, that's not what beautiful is to everybody. And trying to get to beautiful from a godly point of view, no human can even think about that. So I think I feel like that's a sin within itself, to be honest.
So, in that, do you all feel Christianity has justified slavery and racism?
Christianity had to justify it, like as in, like,
Think about it. Think about what I just said and think about what you all have said. Do you feel Christianity as a religion has justified slavery and racism?
I think we have to establish the difference between kind of like what Frederick Douglass said, and was differentiating the Christianity of this land and the human experience versus Christianity of Christ. And I think that we people fall short, and you see the corruption, the wicked, the bad, the sin, and we humanly people create. I think that's where you see. You can take anything out of the Bible and utilize any sentence and any words that you want and turn it any way. And so I think that that's really the most important is differentiating Christianity of Christ and God's culture, so the kingdom culture versus the human culture.
Okay, and let me help y'all out for what I'm saying. You've heard Christianity is a white man's religion. You hear that a lot today in the culture. One of the reasons is because they use the Bible to captivate the mentality of the slaves and let them understand that it's godly for them to be a slave. It's godly for them to obey the slaves, obey your masters. They did these things. Even we find out the Klan even the rebirth was started by a Baptist preacher, in Georgia in 1912 with the rebirth of it. Everything they tried to use the Bible, to control and justify, what they were doing. Even the mark of Ham, so in those things, some people have said, well, wait a minute, this isn't for us. But as you said earlier, what people have done is taken the Bible and manipulated it to propagate their own agenda. Okay. So if that was happening in the church, which we know it was, shouldn't the church even make a more forward and greater stance to then retract, pull back, and tear down those pillars of hate, of racism, of dissension, of lies, and then rebuild it on a new structural content and foundation?
Yes.
But how y'all gonna do it?
Yeah, silence is a barrier. Silence is betrayal. And the church, its leaders and influencers cannot be slow to speak because this is what causes fissure and division. White privilege is still real. The history is actually history. Most people don't study history and they don't understand history. People don't want to talk about history and the problems and everything that we've done. And so we have to talk about it. We can't remain silent. And we have to say it's wrong, and rather than not saying anything at all. And that requires God-fueled bravery. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we're getting ready to close. And I thank all of you Now, before we end, people that just came in, I want you to give us a testimony of what you've experienced, racism, your discrimination. Whether it have been with the police, whether it been with a friend. I mean, do y'all have any experiences that you've had like that? I'll start off with Alana.
Basically, I already stated my standpoint, from the biracial people and how we experience racism. We experience racism from white people and black people.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, certain instances, and like the grocery store that I work in, it's pretty much like an all white, mostly white people go there. And like just like I said, if I have my hair certain, they didn't look at me and stuff like that.
Try to get into line and work differently.
Yeah, pretty much.
Solomon.
I feel like situation with me, it comes like, here and there. Let's just say that. I remember one that happened at Chick-fil-A when I was working at Perimeter Mall, and like we did deliveries, and I was just walking, delivering Chick-fil-A to someone in Macy's, and while I was walking out, I'm walking behind like I guess like two white people, and then they stopped, and then they waited for me to get in front. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go in front of you, and like they look kind of like it's scared of me, as if they didn't want me to walk behind them. And then another situation would be like people would look at me like I played football for 4 years, and I really I worked out. I got size now, and people will look at me and think like I'm supposed to have a really like deep voice. I'm supposed to be like not smart or something. Like some people would like talk to me and be like, "Well, I didn't know that you talk like that. I didn't know you didn't know you was like like that." I was about to be scared of you for a second. I'm like, "Why?" It's like, "Cause man, you a big black dude." I'm like, "Oh," and things like that happens to me sometimes from time to time. So.
Quinn.
So my experience of relating to racism has really been surrounding white apathy and just witnessing the disparities in the country that we live in that is plagued by systemic racism. And so, seeing the injustice every day, my experiences with racism don't even scratch the surface when it comes to the experiences of my friends, my boyfriend, or really my family members, because a lot of my family members are actually not even blood related to me. I've had closer relationships with those who are not blood related to me than sometimes people in my own family. And so, just opening my eyes and being empathetic to what is happening in the world around me has been just incredibly important. And just ensuring that I challenge the injustice and confront the biases and the discrimination that I see almost every day. I think I'd be remiss to say that I didn't witness it almost every day living in the Deep South in some form or another. And so, making sure that I just speak up to these injustices. And although I'm not, I'm white, I'm blonde, I fit the description of white privilege. I mean, my existence has been, benefited from being white and having that privilege. And so, just admitting and speaking up to that and doing my part and utilizing my platform and my, what I've been provided my entire life for the better, and speaking up is essential to my goals in life.
Wow, amazing. You said it. Okay. And one day we're gonna have you. I'm gonna have you in because you have an awesome testimony of what you've been through. I've gotten texts and messages about you saying, she came locked and loaded. I know you. I know how you go at it hard, but I also know your story, and you have a story that where most people would have gave up, and I think a lot of people wrote you off at an early age. Correct? That your story that you from where you were when you were 19 and 20 is in no way indicative to the woman that you are now. So I'm definitely want to bring you in. I want to have some people hear your testimony. But those that don't know, literally, I brought Queen in not just because she was a white woman, but also because she's what that she's experienced. And it doesn't matter where you start or what you go through, you know, and this goes for everyone, especially if you feel that your color is holding you back, your financial situation is holding you back, your family and social systemic, sociological, economic dilapidation is holding you back. You can still overcome that if you trust in God, no matter what. And I'm not just saying just pray about it and saying kumbaya and leave it like that. No, it's going to take work. It's going to take you actually knowing what's going on and facing it. You cannot face it. You cannot beat a demon if you ignore a demon. Did you understand? And racism is a demon. It's a spirit. It's real. We can pray, but we got to face it and acknowledge that it's there so we know how to deal with it. Okay. So I want to end this conversation. I want to thank you all definitely for joining us on Uncomfortable Conversations. You know, all of you have been wonderful. Those that are watching, listen, share this with some friends, share it with other people. I want you to get your young people involved. Older pastors, listen, if you're not having young guys and young women coming up, and I say young guys and young women coming up within your church, and you're not ready to pass them the baton or at least training them to take the baton, then you're setting up your church for failure. You're not doing your job. I'm going to call you out like that. So if you're about the movement, listen, these young people have a way of doing what they do. Let them do it the way they do it. They don't have to fight the way we fought. They don't have to handle it the way we handle it. They don't have to use the same vernacular or the same tools or the same means. They do it the way that works for them, and we have to respect that because it works. We did it our way. It's time for us to support them and let them do it theirs. This is your boy, Pastor Jean with Connect Church. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning into Uncomfortable Conversations. I'm going to get everybody one moment to say goodbye. Tell them where they can find you at, your social media handle. And we're going to go ahead. We're going to start off from right to left. Mike, tell them who you are, where they can find you at.
Michael Jolly. You can find me on Instagram at official Mikey J1, Facebook Michael Jolly, and on Twitch I stream Mikey J1.
Alana.
Hey, my name is Alana. You can find me on Instagram at I'm Alana Hope, Alana with the H at the end, and you can find me on Facebook at Alana Hope.
All right, Quinn.
You can find me on Instagram, Quinn1, or LinkedIn, Quinn Cartal.
All right, Solomon.
You can find me on Instagram, ATL .solo, or Facebook, which is just Solomon Andrews, and yeah.
All right, and I'm your boy, Pastor Jean. My handle is always Pastor Jean Ward on IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. I keep it easy. It's real easy to find me. Want to thank y'all so much. Tune in next week. We're going to have some more people in for Uncomfortable Conversations. Listen, we're going to have some people in that you're really going to understand and see the difference from individuals that face with the judicial system of being imbalanced and wrongful racial profiling. We're also going to be dealing with the systemic racism within the university system of how does that look from both sides, from a black and white perspective. So I look forward to y'all joining in. Tell your friends about it to tune in to Uncomfortable Conversations with Connect Church and your boy, Pastor Jean. Love you and be blessed.